Greetings from Atolia, I am the Lord Bones. This is Tinker Tidings. I know the name was a little bit lame, but I'm not quite sure I'll come up with anything better in the meanwhile. So this show is basically mainly opinions on news and things about the gaming industry as a side gig to my reviews and first impressions, so that way then you might get an idea of who I actually am. So I'd like to talk today about the PlayStation 4 digital store creeping towards Steam levels of quality. I would then like to go into some thoughts about the Switch pre-launch, and then top it off with a very small section at the end to do with my channel if any subscribers happen to be watching this video. So let's get on with it, shall we? So first, let's talk about the PlayStation 4 store, because there were two games that were promoted by PlayStation, and there was a third game that wasn't promoted by PlayStation, but we already know is a pretty bad game because it was on Steam. So firstly, I would like to go on to Life of Black Tiger, which was promoted on the YouTube channel for PlayStation. This game is isn't good, really. I mean, you might be able to find fun from this, and if you do, all will and power to you, but this game has mistranslations. It has really awkward character models that seem to just clip into things. There's a bit where a tiger picks up a rhinoceros and it just falls through the entire floor. And there was a 3-minute sort of boss fight, ball fest I would rather call it, where you basically just run around for literally 3 minutes, and there's literally nothing you can really do to speed that up. And overall, the game is not at the quality level you would necessarily expect from PlayStation 4. And this game was free in Android, but it's charging $10 on the PlayStation 4 store, which is not okay, personally. Although it's probably linked to the fact that I think you have to pay to get onto the digital store, and we'll get back to that later on. So the second game in all of this is Skylight Freerange 2 Gachduine, which received a little bit of promotion from the PlayStation YouTube channel. And this game is sort of a tragedy, because it seems like they attempted to make a good game, but they were just nowhere near competent enough. And there is a hell of a lot of text in this to do with the lore. There's a hell of a lot of text in the tutorial, which I'm not sure how on earth they expect anyone to understand their very complicated battle system with that much text in the tutorial, but it seems like they did. And the sheer amount of lore and text and dialogue in that thing just boggles the mind, quite frankly. The music also literally sounds like they made it themselves. Like, I reckon I could make music to that level quite easily, and I have actually had experience with commissioning music for video games. It's not that expensive. They could have done a better job, I'm sorry, but they could have. And they are charging $14.99 for this, and it isn't even on Steam, which makes me think, I wonder if they tried to get on Steam or if they didn't even bother with it, but we'll get back to Steam later on as well. The third one on my little evidence here is Firefighters the Simulation. Now, there is another title of games, which is Firefighters Simulator, and then a year afterwards, so it'd be like Firefighter Simulator 2017, for example, and that's not to be confused with this title over here. Now, we have this on Steam, and on Steam it is $15. On the PlayStation Store, it is $30. Now, this game, although it is bad, but it's bad in a way of competency, sort of in the way that Skylight Freerange 2 is bad in competency, but these guys maybe just stuck a whole bunch more stuff into it, so you kind of didn't notice some of the problems in it. So I'll link in the description a link to Jim Sterling's video, which definitely shows off some of the just really bad parts of this game, and this is just a big step down. All three of these games is a step down for the kind of quality you might expect from a console digital store. They are not levels of bad like, let's say for example, Day 1 Gary's Incident or Guys of the Wolf. They are not that bad, but you cannot deny that it is a step down for the levels of quality you might expect from a digital store on console. Now, the Xbox 360 seems to do similar things with this, with the arcade, and it has kind of been happening, but these two titles, the Life of Black Tiger and Skylight Freerange 2 Gachduine, both received promotion from Sony, from the PlayStation YouTube channel. They both had their trailers up, and it seems to me that the only reason why those trailers were up, other than there is a chance that those things were up as an automatic measure, that it just pops up on someone's screen somewhere and it says, grab this trailer, stick it on our channel, stick a PlayStation logo on the front of it, go, and they don't even look at the video, because more than likely not everyone that works at Sony on the PlayStation team is going to actually be a gamer in general. So I reckon maybe that is to do with it, but honestly, if that was to do with it, why isn't Firefighters the Simulation, or the Simulator, whatever it's called, actually on the YouTube channel, which makes you think either it isn't or Sony have clocked onto it. Here's the thing, just before Steam started putting stuff on the store, there was some really bad games. This was just before Greenlight. There were a parade of, just not a lot, but there were a few really bad games getting through the net, and we were all thinking, why aren't Game X and Game Y, which are good, for example, Unepic wasn't on the store right then, and that game is actually good and could not get on Steam at the time. We were thinking, why on earth can't these games get onto it? And just after then, they actually launched Steam Greenlight. Now, Steam Greenlight, for people that don't know, is a way to vote for games to get onto Steam. It's sort of a way of pre-deciding whether or not people might buy the actual game. And what it has resulted in is Steam being a cesspit of low quality junk. 40%, well, just under 40% of all the games that have ever been released on Steam came out last year, came out in 2016. That is what Greenlight has done. It has gone up every single year since Greenlight was a thing by an enormous amount, and this is the biggest storefront on PC. Now, if we take that into account and we look at the PlayStation 4 digital store and we think to ourselves, okay, well, just before Steam went into Greenlight, there were garbage games getting on there, and then they released Greenlight. I am wondering if this here is going to be a turning point where PlayStation is either going to employ better quality control or have a system similar to Greenlight, which I think could work a little bit better on PlayStation 4, because they could probably make it so that you could play the game and decide whether or not you would or would not buy it. However, I don't really think that they should go for it, and here's the reason why. We on PC happened to go through a sort of process, almost a process of mourning over the platform that console have not gone through. They would not tolerate the same kind of things without this process of mourning until they get to the point where we just accept that there's absolute garbage on Steam. We just kind of accept it now because there's nothing we can do, clearly. And I'm not quite sure that it's A, the best thing, and B, that the console audience will actually go for it. I mean, the only reason why we stand for it right now is because Steam will give you a refund within 2 hours of play of the actual game, and they seem to give me a refund within about 3 hours. They responded to me when I bought something fairly recently. When we heard that the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 had a similar architecture to computers, we thought that would be brilliant. Okay, we can port things one to the other, we can get a game on Xbox One, port it straight across the PC, and it won't suck, at least in FPS. It didn't really happen because game developers tend not to be competent enough to make games that are good, but we thought maybe having that would make it cheaper to go from PC to console to the other console, because there's very similar architecture, and so on and so forth, which is really one of the things we really wanted to happen. But what seems to be happening maybe now is because development costs are so cheap and we can just make stuff on a computer without even having a dev kit. I mean, we don't even know if Life Black Tiger even had a dev kit, to be perfectly honest with you, because they're just made on Android. They could have just converted it and then sent it off and it happened to actually work onto it. We don't even know if they developed it specifically for PlayStation 4, which is the odd thing really here, and that there is something that's going to happen when you happen to have architecture very similar to a PC, and I don't think this is a good thing. I don't think that the quality control should go down on the PlayStation 4. I don't think the quality control should have gone down on Steam, but we cannot tolerate it now. So maybe that is what they're thinking. Maybe they'll think eventually they'll tolerate it, but I really don't think they should go down that route. Now, I don't want to make this too long, so firstly, I'm not going to explain what the Switch is. If you want to know what the Switch is, I will stick an annotation on the screen, a link in the description, a card, whatever the bloody well they actually show up on the screen, and you can go find out about what the Switch actually is. That is not really the purpose of this little section for me. The purpose of this section here is something that I've noticed of people comparing the Switch to the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and a few other things about how weak the console actually is. So, firstly, I'll just go through the overview that I actually really think that I like the hardware. I've not had it in my hands because I'm not anywhere near New York, but I think that the hardware looks good. But here's a little thing, I'm on my third Nintendo 3DS. I'm probably not the best person to ask about this because I would basically buy another 3DS. Maybe not right now because I only just recently bought my last one, but I'm the kind of person that would buy something just because I like the idea of it being portable and keeping me no longer bored when I'm out in the real world. And in terms of the actual software, I do think that the comparisons to Xbox One and PS4 are sort of, on par because the sheer amount of games that came out in the first year of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is just massive. Even if some portion of that was indie titles, you've got to admit that the amount of games is nowhere near on Switch, even with the latest announcements for new games, because there were more announced after the presentation. However, people seem to be comparing it to the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and I think the main reason why is because they see the Nintendo Switch as a way to band together the gaming universe. Because Nintendo has been a part of the gaming universe, I mean, the NES basically retransformed the entirety of gaming as we know it, and the SNES really threw it into the mainstream light. Because people banned the Nintendo Switch inside the realm of gaming, it seems like they want to compare the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. However, a more ample comparison would be to something like the 3DS and the PlayStation Vita, because this thing is largely a portable console. I see this really as Nintendo discontinuing their home console line. They will disagree continually because it's them and they don't necessarily want it to seem as though they're trying to replace the 3DS, but it just is the way that it's going to end up going. If I could play a really good AAA title on the go, I am not necessarily going to be carrying around my 3DS, even though I probably will for a little while, up until games stop coming out for the 3DS. So the comparison really, I reckon, is to the other handheld devices. Now, I see some people as well saying it's going to compete with the mobile market, with the tablet market. And I have a lot of opinions about how the mobile tablet market is nowhere near what it actually should be like in order to be able to make a profit. So let's take, for example, iOS and Android, the Play Store on there. You cannot put out a AAA title on those devices, even let's say an iPhone where you know what the actual hardware actually definitely is. You cannot put a game on there and charge 40 quid for it, or $60 for it. It will not make the money. There is no way in hell. And also, it would more likely would require physical controls. So people that are claiming that this thing is going to compete with mobile phones don't understand that the kind of audience that plays games on mobile phones exclusively, notice the keyword there, exclusively on mobile phones, are not the same market that would end up buying a portable handheld gaming console, because firstly, they don't even consider themselves to be gamers. They just want to play some freemium game that is just the lowest denominator type deal, and or want to play some of the ports, which is the only way actually that AAA titles can even make any money onto it, is to port a game onto mobile and then charge a small amount of money or make it free with microtransaction. Case in point here is Super Mario Run. After 3 levels of trying it, you had to pay, I think it was $10, and people went absolutely ballistic. Absolutely ballistic. Now that there would convert to around about, let's say they were unfair, they rounded to £10. For an indie title, or a title of that size, the size of Super Mario Run, that is an amazing price. That there is the kind of price that you would pay for that game right now on Steam, to be perfectly honest with you. For example, let's have a look actually. For example, there is Bit Trip Runner 2, which is on the Steam store right now for £11. Now, you won't necessarily have to pay that because of how many sales there are, but that there is a sort of runner that has levels that are pre-made, and albeit that it does not necessarily have the prowess and recognizability as something like Mario, but we're all perfectly fine with it, and that game is very good, by the way, just as a note. And you can't convince a mobile audience to go for it. And people saying, oh, it was downloaded so many millions of times, and yet only, I think it was a very small percentage anyway of people actually bought it. I mean, are you surprised? Are you in any way surprised? Because it is a miracle that that game made money. Because the mobile audience do not want to pay for games, because they do not consider themselves gamers, and they are used to this freemium microtransaction bull all around the actual store. So there's no way that these two are really even competing, because you will not get AAA titles onto a mobile phone or onto a tablet. It just cannot happen in an exclusive manner. You cannot exclusively stick something onto a tablet, charge the kind of prices that you kind of need to be able to get the money back from it, and not stick microtransactions here, there and bloody everywhere, and expect to make money back. And there may be examples to the contrary there, but you've got to admit that if there were the amount of games that are released on console charging the same price on mobile, it would not work. Firstly, also as well, just as a note, everyone would need physical controls as well. Pretty much, you can't, there's no way you could ever control FPS on a screen. It's just horrible. So that's basically my little bit of thoughts, because I see a lot of people comparing the two. I already got my pre-order for the Nintendo Switch. I'll probably end up coming back and talking about my initial thoughts with the console, and I might even stick up some footage so that I can actually show you some of the actual games onto it. However, that's pretty much all today. I mean, you can talk to me in the comments if you do necessarily want some more opinions and more discussion on the Nintendo Switch, because I do know quite a bit about it now, just continually being blasted with information and leaks and all that kind of things. So onto the channel stuff. Now, I don't really like talking about channel stuff, but I don't mind tacking something onto the end of another video. So firstly, I want to try to create an IMO as often as I possibly can. It won't necessarily be really new stuff though, because I think that there is enough games now. I mean, it was 4,000 games in 2016 that there might be a little bit of value in doing games that might be, I don't know, 2 months old, not necessarily 1 month old as the current system stands. That rule was sort of made up literally like years ago when the series started. I will then also stick on some Steam cleaning, which I'll go through some of my back catalogue and see if anything's anywhere near decent. I actually have a few games from the Humble Bundle, but the thing is those games are already rated highly, so that might not be the best idea. Although, you know, it is a way of showing good games off anyway, which even good games happen to have some criticism behind them. So you'll end up seeing Tinker Tidings, IMO, Steam cleaning on this channel, and you will see no Let's Plays, because I am sticking Let's Plays onto a totally different channel called Medallion It, which I'm going to link in the description on the screen. If you do happen to want to see them, go for it. That'll be starting up next week, along with this channel, which is going to be starting up next week, and hopefully I'm going to be able to get you out. I'll probably get out at least a couple Steam cleanings. I don't know whether I'll be able to get an IMO out, but I'll give it a go, shall I? So that's basically everything. So if you've watched up to this point, please rate, comment and subscribe, and I will catch you next time, probably next time in a Steam cleaning. Thank you very much. Goodbye.